We're excited to hear what you're going to share about the future of film and NFTs. Let's give the panel a hand, everyone.
Hey guys, hopefully everyone's having a lovely week. I know it's Friday afternoon, so I appreciate the audience still kicking around to listen to us speak about film and NFTs today. So firstly, just to kick things off, I'd love to do a quick round of intros. Maybe Lisa, if you can kick us off and tell the audience a bit about what you're up to.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lisa Ann Edwards. You can find me basically anywhere with that name. I run Getting Started in Crypto, which is basically exactly what it says. And I run the Moon Mag, which is a positive crypto and NFT magazine. And also I've written a film called Coin Runners, which we are fundraising through NFTs, giving the royalties back to the owners through those NFTs.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Kenny Johns. I am the founder of Ample, and we are building a decentralized distribution, streaming, and financing platform that Web3 tools for films, shows, and music.
Perfect, thanks guys. And yeah, I'm Jake, nice to meet you all. I run an agency called J3 that works with the entertainment industry to tokenize both physical assets and digital media. We work with IP and licensing, also through consumer goods. At the moment I'm working with a lot of consumer wine products mixed in with a transmedia operation out of Europe. But with that being said, we're kind of love to dive into the nuts and bolts of the conversation here and kind of really unearth why NFTs and why it's applicable to both filmmakers, fans, and how it's currently shaping the industry. So, you know, there's not always a clear reason to choose NFTs or blockchain, and a lot of it is a bit of hype or like they're using buzzwords, but you guys are both obviously pretty deep and ingrained in the industry. So to firstly, like from a filmmaker standpoint, how would you see, like, what are the main problems being solved within the industry and using NFTs and blockchain technology? Lisa, do you want to keep
So basically we're giving back the ownership to the person who's writing the film, to who's creating the film, and to the actors. So they own their images, they own their, you know, their words, and yeah, so that's really important by cutting out that middleman. And we know when somebody writes a book and they list it on Amazon for $19, they get $1 in royalties. So essentially the filmmaker can then go, okay, I'm going to create 15,000 NFTs and I'm going to divide 15, 30, 50% of the royalties and give that back to my NFT holders. So they're then holding 50% of that ownership and able to create the film that they want without having a studio or somebody big in Hollywood dictating how you make that film.
Yeah, I would definitely hop on that. I think that's actually one of the things that's most exciting about what's happening in the space is people will be able to reclaim control of their creative direction. So they're kind of empowered to tell their message, their story, not, you know, a few of these kind of big entities that sort of dictate what's popular and what's not popular. So I think from our perspective, we're looking at it like we basically need to rebuild the distribution infrastructure on Web3, and then that basically empowers everyone to, you know, it creates financing opportunities, permissionless distribution. You don't need gatekeepers, you don't need lawyers. There's a whole rack of benefits that come from transparent on-chain analytics as well. So I think it's going to be basically you create this new framework that everybody's going to do business with, like that's going to power greater economies for the next, you know, 5 to 10 years. But yeah, we'll see. There's a whole bunch more to unpack, but I don't want to take it. Yeah, see where we go.
No, perfect. And I guess, like, if you look at the three traditional entertainment pillars of, say, sports, music, and film, you could argue that film, at least in the NFT space, is probably the least underdeveloped or the least knowledge with, like, a consumer or kind of currently what's been happening. So as you guys, with both working on two projects, with the convergence of both the film and blockchain industries, what are some use cases that you're, like, most excited about with the projects that you're working on currently?
Use case with what I'm working on at the moment with Coin Runners is basically empowering the people to own the film, to be excited about the film. We then create community with that film. So when they own that, and you're building instant community. So as long as you're consistent and you're keeping them informed, they can then trade the NFTs, they can get roles in the movie, they can write a line in the movie. There's so many different things that they can do. And we saw this recently done with Hollywood producer and director Julie Bacino. So she's done that with her film that she's filming at the moment, and has empowered the people to take 50% of her film and get those royalties when it goes to the distribution services that she's taking it to.
Yeah, for sure. I think NFTs sort of represent, because you can essentially program NFTs to represent whatever. They can be credits, they can be roles, they can be actual IP ownership, they can be claims just to royalties, just to residuals. So I think giving that power back to the artist and allowing them to dictate what the NFT actually represents is important. And then, but what we're trying to create specifically is a good user experience, right? So if you're streaming content just as you normally would, listening, watching, enjoying, and you really feel passionate about this project, this creator, this film, this body of work, you can actually own it the same place you stream it, right? So it's all encompassing. It's like this singular platform. And I think increasing the user experience and onboarding like regular Web 2 users, so like your aunt, your uncle, like my grandma, whoever, can just log on, jump on, and they're like, I watch this, I love this, I want to be a part of this, and then actually see some of that income as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot there, obviously, to unpack, but I think that's where we're going, and right now everybody's just kind of experimenting and seeing what works, but I love the possibilities for sure.
Totally, thanks for that, guys. And I guess as well, like from a creative standpoint, if you're an aspiring independent filmmaker, and unless you kind of have great contacts at a studio or a big production house, it can be inherently quite difficult to obtain capital or financing for your project. So I think by leveraging this kind of technology in these use cases, it really enables creatives like from all walks of life to get a shot at making, getting their IP or their story being told and bringing that to life via cinema or different forms of media. And just kind of to dive in on the fan standpoint, because it's interesting kind of evolution we've seen with consumption of media and content. You've got Netflix where you pay $10 or $20 a month to get this massive slew of content, and it really is quite endless with what you can get access to in terms of value for money. So for people that are, say film fans that are really getting interested in like what's happening, the different use cases, how the technology is being applied, and how they can get closer to their favorite film actors or their filmmakers. How do you kind of see from you guys running platforms or projects with providing enough value? So for example, like if someone's like, hey, we're doing a mint for a $200 NFT, how do you guys kind of like package up that value for someone who's potentially interested, who's used to paying $20 on Netflix for like a monthly subscription?
Well, essentially they're getting ownership of the film. So we're saying to them, okay, you buy 1 NFT, 2 NFTs, 10 NFTs, 100 NFTs, and you can get different perks. So you can collect those, trade those, and then you are essentially getting into the film. So for a film buff, you can get up close to your idols. You can get on the set with them. You can have a day on the set with them. You can get behind the scenes footage as it's being filmed. So there's so many different perks that can be built into these NFTs, and just using that NFT as a gate or a ticket to get into that access is just essential and a game changer, and something that you're not going to get on Netflix.
Yeah, totally. I'll jump in because I think you crushed a lot of the really good points, so I won't reiterate them. But I think culturally, we're going to start to see almost like a social flex, in your wallet, of what you actually care about, what you own. And I think that's going to extend to your bodies of work. You see NFTs represent your clubs, your communities, whatever you care about, right? So I think from a social standpoint, you're going to be like, well, I own part of Star Wars now. I own part of this royalty. I own this. I support this artist. And then you have a chain of title that you can show, I was the first adopter. And so now you have a financial component, oh, cool, I can claim these royalties. I actually own part of this. But now you have a legacy as well, and you get a social legacy that you can flex eventually. So I think there's going to be a lot more to that from a fan standpoint.
But the other thing with that as well, so with an NFT, it's transferable. So if you need money and you have to sell that, then those royalties are transferred to the next owner. So you may take, the first round of royalties and, then decide that you're going to sell that, this is a valuable asset, and the next person comes along and gets a second round of royalties when it's on sold.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I think another point is when you have communities behind the ownership and you actually add like a full network of humans that actually own a body of work and care a body of work, well, now you have kind of like flywheel marketing effects for that body of work as well. So you don't need centralized entities pushing a specific body of work. You can have a fully successful project with like 50,000 people.
Totally, and I guess it's kind of like that evolution from passive consumption of content into like engagement, community, and someone can actually have a vested interest in that project, both financially and kind of like through socially as well. So yeah, it's super interesting. And I guess just to dive into another kind of discussion around that with like kind of IP ownership versus access, where there is kind of two models you can approach it, whether, hey, you're slicing up a piece of a film to give to a community, or it's like centered around that access where you're going to red carpets, you're meeting the fans, you're getting physical props from on set. Do you guys see like a combination of both with kind of tailoring those offerings? Obviously, without getting too technical, when you start slicing up a film, it then becomes a securitized asset, which then is a bit more logistically difficult for people to get involved with. So how do you kind of see that with kind of slicing up the value versus that ownership versus access and experience?
Okay, that's a tough one. So this is a very big sort of issue in the industry, especially in America with security laws and that sort of thing. In Australia, it's not so bad. So we are building contracts into the NFTs where, you know, the royalties can be paid directly to that. America is gatekeeping that for all you guys, just to keep you safe. And yeah, so you never know, us filmmakers might rip you off. And yeah, so, but the digital assets...
Especially when everything's on-chain and you can see a full recognition of everything that we can't manipulate. But yeah, sure,
yeah, so
don't trust
blockchain,
us.
we can't change that. And yeah, so essentially you can turn in your NFT and get a physical item off the set. So... And there's so many things that we can do with the NFTs, like to incentivize the people to join the community, be excited about the film, and, you know, just live their dreams, basically. You know, if they want a line in the film, then, you know, they've got to trade these NFTs and work harder to get them.
Yeah, totally. And actually one thing also that I think is cool about what NFTs could represent, even just from like a credit side and a professional side, right? I mean, I worked in broadcast like television for over a decade, and I don't remember all my credits. Like, you're just cranking away. Like when you work on music and songs, or you're in a studio, or you're doing a film, like you're just cranking.
Update that IMDb.
Exactly. Like I gotta go through and manually do this, but like so. But essentially, you can create a ledger of your credits and your work history, and I think that still applies to like fans. Like, oh, if I got an extra role in this film, and I did this, and I did that. Like, again, you have this social flex, you have proof of everything that you've done that nobody can manipulate, and then you could even like sell that, transfer that one day, whatever, right? So I think there's a whole host of benefits.
Absolutely, yeah, the peer-to-peer element is definitely enabling really quick transferability between anyone in the world that has an interest in a common kind of project, right? Which is awesome. So as well, like we've kind of seen some of the biggest studios recently, like Lionsgate and a lot of big IP packages like Marvel that are kind of dabbling into NFTs. And it's interesting to see, obviously you guys are more from the independent route, but obviously the studios are clearly looking at this very closely. So from what we've seen so far, it does appear to be they've approached it more from that digital collectible, where it's not necessarily you're getting a slice of Avengers, but it's kind of like a tokenized collectible asset that you can then you know, go out of your way to collect if you're involved, or if you have interest in a certain film or piece of IP. So with you guys being indie filmmakers, obviously the focus is really that access and experience and ownership versus the studio model, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. So it's more about getting the fans involved into the film. While there is, you know, every filmmaker hopes that the movie's going to make it to the Oscars, or it's going to make it to, you know, South by Southwest or something like that. But it essentially just incentivizes these people to get behind your film. You know, if they want to get those roles, they're there for them. And, you know, this makes it exciting, it makes it accessible, and just super easy. It's, you know, it's human friendly.
Yeah, totally. I think also too, you will have to just constantly work with the geographical jurisdictions, right? And like you have different markets that are already so audience integrated, like the Korean drama market as an example. Like they're changing the script and they're changing it based on audience feedback like hours before it goes to air. So everybody's scrambling, but it's like such an audience-based, industry. So they're pretty much, and imagine if you tie in ownership or roles or anything else like that. I mean, I think people would really be stoked about that. And there are, I think, like 80 million viewers or something in that. It's just in that one specific market, right? So it's a massive industry, like $2 trillion industry. But I think you have to, basically we'll just have to work with like geographical jurisdictions. We'll have to geo-lock opportunities because I think some people, and then based on what the creator wants to do they want to offer roles or do they want to offer ownership? What do the community want? So I think right now we're going to see that kind of evolve over the next couple of years.
Totally, thanks guys. And I guess with the film industry, it really does kind of transcend like lots of different generations, everything from people born, from the 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way up to now, and Gen Alpha from people born in the last 10 years. So obviously with positioning what you're doing and using NFTs to get in front of the right audience, obviously the whole user experience and UI is a huge component to kind of minimize that friction, getting people involved and getting them part of your film and your project and getting them really stuck in. So how do you guys typically approach that from like a marketing standpoint to get in front of the fans to like, I guess without getting too technical obviously, but just from like a strategic standpoint, how do you best position like a Web3 product for a film fan where they're kind of interested but like they might be 50 or they could be 20, I guess it's just really understanding your audience and kind of building that out from there, right?
Yeah, so essentially knowing what the film is about, then marketing to the people that are going to come to that film is the essential thing. So anytime that you make a film and you create a film, you will have comp films. So with Coin Runners, one of the comps is Wolf of Wall Street. So essentially it's just then finding out who watched that film, what audience it had, and then searching out that audience for my film. And then bringing that to those people and hoping they will, embrace the idea.
Yeah, actually, and we were talking about this the other day, but I think, so let's just say somebody like me is like, building the distribution network and infrastructure, right? So like, this is how we'll do business. But I think if you look at the surrounding supportive networks that need to be made, like to get something to market and get something in front of users. You have marketing campaigns and this and that. I don't know that the Web3 support is really there yet. I still think business managers, marketers, I think like they all have, and agencies, I still think they have like a space, but I think somehow we have to connect them to like Web3. But right now, I think in the short term, I think what we're going to see is empowered communities and them wanting to tell a specific message, and them caring so much that they're the marketers and they create the flywheel effects that then bring in the funds to create that body of work.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely seen that, at least in the NFT space thus far, as it all is complete word of mouth hype, kind of like you don't want to miss out, and everyone who's excited about like that just kind of really gets people pumped up and wanting them to get involved personally rather than you having to do like a paid AdWords campaign to bring people into your film. It's just a lot more, not only efficient, but like a lot more cost effective as well.
Right.
Yeah. So just like, I guess if there's any creators or like kind of film producers in the crowd that are kind of like interested in this and like, hey, how do I best approach my film or getting produced in this industry leveraging Web3 tech? How would you guys say you've described your journey with starting, obviously you're both kind of career professionals, and then in the last couple of years you've pivoted into the Web3 space. Like, what have been some of the struggles, and kind of if there's any insight you could give to people that are perhaps creatives that are looking to get their project off the ground, and if you could just give some insight there, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely go to events like this. Go to community events. Eventbrite has lots of local events where they have creator events. Just create a network of people, get those ideas, and you never know who's going to come on board. And I think that's the best way of doing it. There's been so many conversations I've had here and at other events that, I've collaborated with people along the way. But that's the most important thing. And, I really need to say a huge thank you to my community in particular, because I was on a different stage. And the votes got us here on this Mainstage. So, yeah, it's a huge
For sure, thank you also to your community.
Awesome, yeah, and I guess just to, as we're about to wrap up here, but I guess just like what would you guys say would be your main kind of predictions for the industry over the next 12 to 18 months? Obviously, in crypto world, that can feel like 10 years, but just from some of the developments you're seeing within the industry, like what are you most excited about over the next kind of year and a half for yourself personally?
Okay, I think there's going to be, obviously, I think people are just going to keep building like distribution infrastructure and streaming infrastructure, financing infrastructure. So you've got like platforms like mine, Beam, Babel, a couple other Sound, a couple other platforms like us. But then I think, we're going to be working on like how does business actually happen 5-10 years down the line, right? And so I think we're going to create a new standard of doing business. But you're going to have to sort of work with everybody and like create bridges between all the different platforms, right? And then you have like the multi-chain thing as well, which we won't go down that rabbit hole. But like and then you're going to have all the experimental use cases, right? You're going to have the individual use cases. Well, what worked here? And I think a lot of what worked for like the last NFT boom, like you see some of the communities that are successful and work there. I think a lot of that's going to be applicable to the film space. The film space is still so small, and we're going to have to wait and see use cases before I think you're going to see bigger money come into the space.
But I think what's really exciting is this gives NFTs utility. It gives them value. It's not just a pixelated image or a JPEG that's on a screen that you're selling and buying. It's actually something that, you can hold on to and, actually make money from this by getting film royalties. So I think use case and that sort of thing with IP and contracts built into these NFTs makes them quite a valuable asset sort of moving forward. Over the next 12 to 18 months, I think we're going to have greater conversations with studios and that sort of thing coming into the space. I come from an agency background, so there's already those conversations with managers and that sort of thing. So I think there's going to be more of that. We're going to see more people. We've recently seen Julie Bacino coming into the space and making a film that way. But yeah, just more and more of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, it's definitely a blue ocean, and I think as we're seeing at the moment, there's a ton of different use cases, both from the filmmakers and the studios side, that are really pushing the envelope on what can be done. But with that being said, we're about to wrap things up here. So just to close things off, if anyone would like to connect with us, we can be hanging around after. If any of you want to chat with us personally and kind of dive into these in a bit further detail, as I know there's a few different topics in the discussion there. But just for the audience, if you guys could just let them know how to get in contact with you online, if you tell them about your project, if they want to check it out further once the event's over.
Okay, I'm, as I said earlier, Lisa Ann Edwards everywhere, and my movie project is coinrunnersmovie.com if you want to check that out.
Yep, and again, I'm Kenny Johns, and most of everything that I am doing is all ample.stream. So if you just go to ample.stream, you'll be able to connect with me and my project.
Cool, thanks guys. And yeah, I'm Jake Fraser, 29 on Twitter. If there's any creatives or brands in the entertainment space that want to connect, I'd love to do so. But yeah, I just want to say thanks again to Ian and Jody for putting on a fantastic event, and for you guys for turning up on a Friday afternoon. We really appreciate it. So hopefully everyone has a great day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.